What if I told you that your future is not decided by years of effort, but by 5 seconds? 5 silent seconds decide whether you become the person you admire or remain the person you've been trying to escape. Most people lose their dreams before those 5 seconds are over, and they never even realize it. Today you'll discover why your mind fights hardest in the first 5 seconds before every important decision, why hesitation is never random, and how mastering this invisible moment can completely transform your confidence, your relationships, your success, and the way you see yourself forever. If this conversation is opening your eyes to patterns you've never noticed before, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. These videos are created for people who want to understand the hidden forces shaping their lives, not just to feel inspired for a moment, but to experience lasting inner transformation. Now let's continue uncovering what those 5 seconds are really trying to teach you. The moment between an impulse and an action is far more powerful than most people imagine. Before every meaningful decision, there is a brief pause where two forces meet. One pushes you toward growth, while the other pulls you back toward comfort and familiarity. This invisible moment is where your future quietly begins to take shape. Most people believe change requires dramatic effort, yet lasting transformation often begins inside this tiny opening of awareness. The conscious mind may tell you to speak, begin, leave, forgive, or take a risk, but hidden patterns beneath awareness immediately respond with fear, doubt, and hesitation. These patterns were built through years of repeated experiences, disappointments, and emotional conditioning. They are not trying to help you grow. They are trying to keep you safe by repeating what is already known. This is why the first reaction is often resistance rather than courage. When you hesitate for too long, the unconscious quickly fills your mind with convincing reasons to remain exactly where you are. It creates stories that sound logical, but are rooted in fear instead of truth. Within moments, confidence fades, excuses become stronger, and the opportunity begins to disappear. What could have become a life-changing decision slowly turns into another forgotten intention. The people who appear fearless are not free from these hidden forces. They simply learn to act before hesitation gains complete control. They understand that the first movement, however small, weakens the grip of old patterns. Every immediate action becomes evidence that they are no longer controlled by the identity they carried in the past. With every repeated choice, the mind slowly accepts a new reality. The 5-second window is not about speed for its own sake. It is about recognizing the only moment when your conscious choice is still stronger than your automatic programming. Once you step forward, the old resistance begins to lose its authority, and a new identity starts to emerge. The greatest transformations rarely begin with a perfect plan. They begin with a single decision made before fear has the chance to speak louder than your purpose. Every person lives with two powerful forces operating at the same time. One is the conscious mind, the part that dreams, plans, and chooses the direction it wants to follow. The other is the unconscious, a vast hidden world filled with memories, emotional wounds, fears, habits, and beliefs formed long before you became fully aware of them. While the conscious mind seeks change, the unconscious often seeks stability, even if that stability keeps you unhappy. This silent conflict shapes far more of your life than most people ever realize. When you decide to improve yourself, start a new project, express your feelings, or leave a situation that no longer serves you, the conscious mind creates a clear intention. Yet almost instantly, the unconscious responds with resistance. It reminds you of past failures, imagined dangers, and painful experiences that seem connected to the decision. These reactions happen so quickly that many people mistake them for their true thoughts, when in reality they are echoes of old emotional patterns. The unconscious does not judge whether a habit is healthy or harmful. Its primary goal is to preserve what feels familiar. If you have spent years doubting yourself, avoiding conflict, or fearing rejection, those behaviors become deeply rooted. The moment you try to act differently, the unconscious interprets change as a threat. It sends signals of anxiety, uncertainty, and hesitation, not because growth is wrong, but because it is unfamiliar. This hidden struggle explains why knowledge alone rarely changes a person. You may understand exactly what needs to be done, yet still feel unable to take the first step. The conflict is not between intelligence and ignorance, it is between conscious desire and unconscious conditioning. Real transformation begins when you recognize that these fearful reactions are not commands you must obey, but patterns you can observe without surrendering to them. The greatest victories are not won against the outside world, but within the unseen landscape of the mind. Each time you choose action instead of automatic fear, you weaken the influence of old conditioning and strengthen a new identity. The unconscious slowly begins to accept a different version of who you are. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes natural, proving that true freedom is achieved not by eliminating fear, but by refusing to let it make your decisions. Most people believe they miss opportunities because they lack talent, intelligence, or resources. The truth is often far more unsettling. They miss opportunities because they hesitate at the exact moment life asks them to act. The opportunity itself is rarely the problem. The real obstacle is the invisible conversation happening inside the mind, where fear quietly disguises itself as caution and doubt pretends to be wisdom. When a meaningful opportunity appears, it challenges the identity you have carried for years. Accepting it may require confidence you have never shown, responsibility you have never carried, or change you have never experienced. The unconscious mind immediately reacts by searching for reasons to stay where everything feels predictable. It creates endless questions, imagined failures, and convincing excuses until the moment passes. By the time certainty arrives, the opportunity has often disappeared. This is why so many people spend years saying they were unlucky, when in reality they repeatedly surrendered to hesitation. They wait for perfect timing, complete confidence, or absolute certainty before taking action. Yet those conditions almost never exist. Growth has always demanded movement before comfort. Every extraordinary achievement begins while uncertainty is still present, not after it has vanished. Those who consistently recognize opportunity understand something that others overlook. They know that fear often appears strongest when something truly valuable is within reach. Instead of treating discomfort as a warning to retreat, they see it as evidence that they are approaching the edge of their old identity. They realize that the feeling of resistance is not proof they should stop, but a sign they are about to expand beyond familiar limits. The difference between two lives can be measured by countless small moments of decision. One person allows hesitation to choose for them, while the other takes a single step despite uncertainty. Over time, those tiny choices create completely different futures. Opportunities rarely disappear because the world is unfair. More often, they disappear because the mind convinces people to wait until they become someone they could only become by acting in the first place. The greatest resistance rarely appears at the beginning of change. It emerges when you are closest to becoming someone new. Just before a breakthrough, the hidden parts of the mind often grow louder than ever before. Fear becomes more convincing, doubt feels more realistic, and the desire to return to old habits becomes almost irresistible. Many people mistake this sudden wave of resistance as a sign they are moving in the wrong direction, when it is often evidence that something deep within them is being challenged. The shadow is not simply the dark side of the personality. It is everything you have ignored, denied, or pushed out of awareness because it felt uncomfortable or unacceptable. It carries old fears, hidden insecurities, painful memories, and limiting beliefs that quietly influence your choices. As long as these hidden forces remain unexamined, they continue shaping your life from behind the scenes, making familiar patterns feel safer than genuine growth. Whenever you decide to become more confident, more honest, or more authentic, the shadow reacts because your transformation threatens its control. It whispers that you are not ready, that you will fail, or that others will reject you. These thoughts can feel deeply personal, but they are often nothing more than echoes of an outdated identity trying to preserve itself. The louder these voices become, the more important it is to question whether they are revealing truth or simply protecting old habits. Many people abandon their dreams at this exact stage because they believe the increased discomfort means they have made a mistake. In reality, personal growth often feels uncomfortable precisely because it requires leaving behind the identity that once defined you. The old self does not disappear quietly. It resists being replaced, creating emotional conflict that can seem overwhelming unless you understand its true nature. The moment you refuse to obey these familiar fears, the shadow begins to lose its influence. Each courageous action weakens the patterns that once controlled your decisions and strengthens a new way of living. Transformation is not the absence of inner conflict, but the willingness to move forward despite it. What feels like your greatest obstacle may actually be the final barrier standing between the person you have always been and the person you are capable of becoming. Every lasting transformation begins with a decision so small that it often goes unnoticed. People usually believe that changing their lives requires one dramatic event, but the mind does not rebuild itself through rare moments of greatness. It changes through ordinary choices repeated consistently. A single decision to stand up, speak honestly, begin today, or refuse an old habit may seem insignificant, yet it quietly plants the foundation of an entirely new identity. Your identity is not created by what you hope to become. It is created by what you repeatedly do. Every action sends a message to the unconscious about who you believe you are. When you consistently delay, avoid, or surrender to fear, your mind accepts hesitation as part of your identity. But when you choose even the smallest courageous action, you begin teaching yourself that you are capable of something different. The unconscious mind pays far more attention to behavior than to intention. You can repeat positive thoughts every day, but if your actions continue to reflect fear, the deeper mind will believe your behavior instead of your words. This is why a single act of courage often carries more psychological power than hours of motivation. Action creates evidence, and evidence reshapes belief. As these small decisions accumulate, they begin changing the way you see yourself. Confidence no longer feels like something you must force, because it grows from repeated proof that you can trust your own choices. Discipline becomes easier because it is no longer a struggle against your identity. Instead, it becomes an expression of who you have gradually become through consistent action. The most extraordinary lives are built from thousands of ordinary decisions made with intention. Each small choice strengthens one version of yourself while weakening another. Over time, these quiet moments become impossible to separate from your character. What once required great effort eventually becomes natural, revealing that true transformation is never the result of one giant leap, but of countless small actions that slowly rewrite the story of who you are. The greatest power you possess is not hidden in extraordinary talent or perfect circumstances. It exists in your ability to act before fear has enough time to take control. Every meaningful opportunity presents a brief moment when your conscious intention is stronger than your automatic habits. In that short space, your future remains open. Once hesitation takes over, the unconscious begins pulling you back toward familiar patterns, making inaction feel safer than progress. Most people believe they need more confidence before they can act. In reality, confidence is created by action, not the other way around. Waiting to feel completely ready often becomes a lifelong trap because the mind always finds another reason to delay. The first step may feel uncertain, but it is that very movement that begins dissolving fear. Courage is not born from certainty. It is born from choosing movement despite uncertainty. The unconscious mind learns through experience rather than intention. Every time you act immediately instead of surrendering to hesitation, you provide undeniable evidence that you are capable of facing the unknown. Gradually, the old beliefs that once defined you begin to lose their authority. The mind starts accepting a new identity, one built on action rather than avoidance. This quiet process transforms not only your behavior, but also the way you perceive yourself. There will always be moments when doubt returns. Fear does not disappear forever simply because you acted once. It will continue testing whether you truly believe in the person you are becoming. The difference is that each decisive action weakens its influence. What once felt impossible begins to feel familiar, and what once controlled your life slowly becomes nothing more than a distant memory. Every immediate choice strengthens your ability to meet future challenges with greater confidence. The true meaning of those 5 seconds is not speed, but awareness. They remind you that every important change begins before the mind has finished arguing against it. Your destiny is shaped not by the endless plans you make, but by the moments when you choose to move despite uncertainty. The life you desire is not waiting for a perfect version of you to appear. It is waiting for the version of you who is willing to act before fear convinces you to stay the same.